Yes, right. Welcome
That's okay.
officially, Kate.
We can move
Here, we
over
can
one
switch
way or
it, we've
another.
got a chair over
There's
here.
one chair there still by the monitor. You can be friends with the monitor. Kiss
Be
it,
friends
hug
with
it,
the
whatever you
monitor.
want to do.
Okay. There's even a chair there for you.
Oh.
You still setting up a little bit there?
Almost ready.
Okay.
Thank you.
No?
You saw it on the show Shameless, character Trevor, who is transgender, like
Is
actually.
it this season?
Yep.
Oh, I haven't seen the season yet. Don't wait until.
Okay, well, he was on the show and he had that necklace and Max found it.
He is a nice looking guy.
He's an amazing character on the show, actually, in general. Shows stars and everything. Pretty awesome, actually. And we'll just put him on there.
We're ready.
In the British
He
one or
has a relationship.
something that's different than the American one? So when I first started watching the British one, it was identical. Like we changed nothing over here.
He's in
The names, nothing. The name of the show was the same.
Well, why would you if it works?
The first episode was the same. Like the same thing happened.
Why bother recording it?
Huh?
Why bother redoing it then?
Yeah.
I know. That's why I was just like, I don't understand why we did our own.
This is going out. We're in.
Oh, is that? Oh, okay. Yep. All right. For those of you who have not memorized it. Welcome, everyone, to our Saturday evening meeting. For those of you who are new, we meet here every other week from 6 p.m. until 7:30. During the first 45 minutes or so, we generally have a speaker discuss the week's topic, and then there will be open discussion for the remainder. Everyone is encouraged to bring any resources, experience, or knowledge they may have to share. The success of this group depends heavily on participation. Our mission is to provide resources and support to all members of the transgender community, building relationships through fellowship and understanding. There is no fee for your participation. We ask only that you give what you can, and if you cannot give, please come anyway. We have information and refreshments on the side table over there. I don't think I put any information up, but we have everything here that we know about anyways that can help. Tonight we have a very special guest. Her name is Amanda, and she's going to share her story as an ally. But before we start, let's take a moment and go around and introduce ourselves. If you have preferred pronouns, be sure to mention them as well. I will start. My name is Brianna, and I'm a girl, so call me girl. Stop. Oh, yeah.
I'm Diane. Female pronouns.
I'm Brayden. No preference yet.
Jamie, female pronouns.
Amanda, female pronouns.
Sasha, female pronouns. Kate, female pronouns.
Liz, female pronouns.
Female pronouns.
April, female pronouns.
Margot, male pronouns.
Amy, no preference.
Corinne, female pronouns.
I'm back to my dude.
Welcome, everyone. Does our online person want to introduce himself first?
Is there anyone online? Wants to introduce himself?
Well, let's get
Scott's here. I am not sure how to work this, but hello, everybody.
our person comes back.
Oh, hi.
Oh, did we
Is
get
that
that one?
Yeah, Scott? Is that Scott? Is the name listed here at least?
Yeah, hi. Can you hear me, Liz?
Yes.
Hi,
we can.
everybody. Long time no see.
Grab the coffee. Is it somebody that you throw in the face?
Oh, that's good.
Not worth it.
I'm just thinking ahead.
Use the steeple on that church
Oh,
model.
there you go.
No, I'm bummed that they haven't fixed that stupid light yet. So you almost get killed when you walk across the street and the crosswalk thingy. The light doesn't work. The lights don't flash. And then people try to run you over with their SUVs and such. I think that's no match for an SUV. Tricycle, I can barely handle.
I can barely walk 5 seconds. You need to drive it.
Don't take it personally. Everybody.
Yeah.
You're like, no way. Hold on. You know, you can't pick him up to hang out anytime. Sorry to be late.
Oh, Liz, by the way, I called Naomi to get the code for those ones.
Okay. Next here, see if I can write it down.
She is, the feedback leader. All right, Amanda, we are ready when you are ready.
No pressure.
To talk about all the things.
None at all. Okay. What I'm going to discuss tonight is how I became a transgender ally and my experiences so far. Forewarning, throughout this presentation, I'm going to be referring to Jamie in her non-preferred male pronouns in the parts that I've experienced Jamie as a male. She's given me the okay to do this. So, little background of our story. We became friends in 2010. In those talks and getting to know each other, we discovered that our lives have actually crossed paths quite a bit up until that point. Jamie bowled with my dad, and I was a crazy little kid that would run around and beg for money from the bowlers so I could go play games, and be a spoiled little brat, because that's what I was. Our talks, we just had this connection where like we started talking about things and it was, oh my gosh, no way. Me too. I thought the same thing. Throughout all that, there were difficult life situations that we had both gone through that we were able to help each other with. Again, just being able to have someone to talk to, open up about, even if it wasn't like, even if he hadn't dealt with issues that I dealt with, there was still someone to talk to who I could open up to and get things off my chest. I knew that he started counseling in 2013. There were some family issues and some issues with his business at the time that had been falling through. His business partner actually walked on it. And he started counseling. I didn't think anything beyond that. I myself had been in counseling before that for anxiety, depression, things like that. I went through a phase myself where I shut myself off from the whole world. I didn't want people to see me. I didn't want to go out. I just had a weird social anxiety. I just didn't want to be out and about. I felt like everyone was judging me or just looking at me and I didn't know what I was doing. There was never any one thing. So I went through counseling to help me learn to be more social, to get out there, to try things, to just put yourself out there. So I knew what it was about. I know it's a personal thing, so I figured there was something I needed to know. I'd be told. Over the next 5 years, our friendship had continued to strengthen. We hadn't started dating; we were just friends. I always knew deep down there was something though that he wasn't telling me. But like I said before, I knew that something I had to know. I would be told. I'm gonna jump to about 2014. I learned that Jamie had started group counseling. I didn't know what it was in regards to. I didn't ask. I know it's private. I didn't ask about these people because I knew their lives were private. Like I said, being in counseling myself, you don't ask a lot of questions. I still wanted to know more about them because I knew that these people were spending a lot of time with Jamie. The other reason I wanted to know more about them is because I started to see more isolation and distance coming from Jamie. He was really pulling away from me and I couldn't figure out why. What the only difference I saw were these people. I didn't ask about them for fear of pushing him away. I didn't want to feel like I was like catching up with someone. I didn't want to be that obsessive friend. Be like, oh my god, you're doing this. No. I didn't want to be like that. Towards the end of 2014, he actually allowed a girl from one of his support groups to live with him. She needed a place to stay for safety reasons. And, this ended up being for a really extended period of time. The situation really tested our friendship. I was really jealous of this girl, because she got to spend all this time with Jamie that I wasn't getting to spend with her. And our time together was gonna be farther and farther apart. Only after Jamie came out to me did I find out the truth of the situation, that this friend was a transgender female. I didn't accept it. I wouldn't accept it. November, I think it's 2 minutes, don't you know? Jamie came by my place, and we were just kind of sitting watching TV. I noticed he was kind of uncomfortable and kind of usually is quiet. We kind of just sat there for a little bit, kind of a little awkward. For us, it was different because we usually have a lot to talk about. At one point, the phone rang, and he answered it. And the only thing I heard was, "No, not yet." I knew something was up. It was about midnight at this point, and I was like, "Don't send me to bed," because I was getting tired. She was like, "Well, I actually came over here to talk about it." And my friend, she was mentioning that he was so, my reaction to that was, I had no idea what gender dysphoria was. I never heard this term before. No idea. I had all these thoughts, these questions, and my mind was just going crazy. I was like, what is this? What does this mean? You know, how does this affect me? We sat together and talked and cried some more. I had asked more questions. Again, I can't tell you what some of them were, because a lot of that was just a blur to me. I do remember him bringing up the term transgender. Again, I had no idea exactly what transgender was. In my mind, I'm thinking cross-dressing. That's automatically what I went to at that time was cross-dressing. I didn't know there was more to it. There was something more in depth than that. I had no clue. Thankfully, Jamie was and is open to any and all questions I have had or will have at this point about gender dysphoria and being transgender. That's it. I guess my kind of reach out to everybody is, when coming out to people, know that not everyone will understand initially what you're talking about. You've researched these terms, you've studied them, you understand it. People you're coming out to may not have even thought of gender and what their gender means to them once in their life. It just is what it is. They've never second guessed it. My suggestion would be to try to educate them about it. Don't flood them with information. Try to offer up something, even just being open to questions is huge. If you do have questions that are off limits, tell them, let them know if questions are going to be too personal or what your boundaries might be in regards to questions. I guess that's kind of the biggest thing, is just try to be open and try not to be judgmental with it. Because it's just the biggest thing is, like I said, I had no idea what any of it meant. My reaction wasn't negative, because it was just questions. I just didn't know. After hours of talking, and it was until at least 3, 4 in the morning, I'm pretty sure. The things that I concluded were that I never expected that to be what he was going to tell me. I thought he was going to tell me that our friendship was over. So, Jamie was still Jamie. He was a friend. I wanted to remain friends and continue working on our relationship. I still don't understand where Jamie's gender dysphoria came from. of what I had learned the night before, and yes, I literally went to work the next day and started researching it. I wanted to learn as much as I could as fast as I could. I didn't really want to ask Jamie any more questions until I had a better understanding of what I needed to be asking. I turned to the internet. Of course, the searches were far too broad and were very overwhelming, since I didn't exactly know if I was on the right path. Jamie offered me some books, and they were mostly stories, but again, it was just kind of a little bit too much, because I didn't know how these stories applied to what Jamie was going to be going through. And then I actually jumped on BarnesandNoble.com, and I just searched gender identity. And this is the first book that I picked up, straight talk about sexual orientation and gender identity. It is directed more towards teens, but it was great because it gave me a new set of terms to start to look up. And it gave me a brief definition to just give me an idea, to show me I was on the right path and was right any more things. In the time since I got that book, I had picked up Redefining Realness by Janet Mock. I picked up Transgender for Those Who Are Not by Joanne Harmon. Joanne's book was very difficult to follow. There were a lot of technical terms, and it was a lot of like abbreviations that would be said once, and then it was just throughout the whole thing, and like most of it was just abbreviation after abbreviation, and then like I don't know enough about this to be able to follow it. I finally came across, and I consider my Bible, Transgender 101, The Simple Guide to a Complex Issue. It truly is what it says. It breaks it down to what male to female goes through, female to male. The glossary in here is amazing. It's got images that will show the binary scale. It will show the transgender umbrella, things like that. It breaks it down so you can really start to understand it. So this is my savior. I got other books since then, of course, but it's still my go-to source. On my becoming an ally. An ally is defined as to side with or support someone or something, or a person or organization that cooperates with or helps another in a particular activity. I felt the next step for me was to see Jamie as her authentic self and spend time together. February 5th, 2016, Jamie was returning from the cities from one of her appointments, and I was getting done with bowling that night, and I called her to see if she wanted to get it. And she asked me if she wanted me to have her change into male clothes, because I had yet to see her present as female. And I was like, I've been curious, and can't hide from it forever. I need to experience it. So I'm not sure who was more nervous about it, but got there, and it was a few minute adjustment, but like before, Jamie was still Jamie. It was just the same person I was. There was no difference. The next step for me at that point then was my dad had made plans in the cities for me for my birthday later that month, and he actually ended going to Texas Roadhouse for dinner, and we sat in the lobby for quite a while. Got our table, ate, everything was fine. I didn't sense any negativity or anything, nothing like that. On the drive home, Jamie did ask me how I was feeling about being out with her that day, and I said, it was only then that I didn't really realize that I've been living with another woman. I thought I felt something to Jamie. It just kind of didn't hit me until she asked me about it. But it didn't bother me. It was just routine. So, honestly, it's like any other time we've been out together. Nothing was different. And there was no negativity anymore. Next semester was spring and summer that year. We played with some different hairstyles and stuff, and did a toenail explore, and had fun with that. We did a lot of shopping together. We spent a lot of time at your stores picking out clothes. Jamie not actually being out at home, we would go into the dress rooms together, which always made us like a little entertaining thing to see people's reactions as it was. But the main reason we had done that is because to help Jamie let her know if an outfit works or what works. As you try on different things and think this might work, this might work. It was good for me just to get an idea of like what her style preferences were. Since then, I buy more clothes for Jamie than I do for myself, because I love shopping for her. It's so much fun. It just is amazing, and it's one of her favorite things to do together. July 2nd, 2016 was my first Minnesota Transgender Awareness Month. I was excited to finally be able to put faces with the names I've been hearing so much about. At the same time though, I was nervous because this was gonna be the biggest group of transgender individuals I had been around. It wasn't like, oh my gosh, nobody, I don't know. It was more just like, I felt like I needed to impress everyone, like I had to be like a good show for Jamie to bring me. I was more concerned that no one was gonna like me. The meeting was actually that whole day, the meeting was the longest time since my birthday that I had spent with Jamie presenting with female. So that in itself was a first. Being with a large group was a first. The meeting was a potluck get together for the holiday weekend, so it was kind of nice because I was able to see, like Corinne came and talked to me, and Amy, and Diane was the first one to come and sit with us, and everyone just kind of mingled and we got to know everyone. So that was like a really good kind of warm welcome to just get to know people as people and just not just a group setting meeting and a story sometimes. It's just everybody people you would meet. I do, however, have to thank Matt. The reason for this is because Max asked the one question that Jamie and I hear time and time and time again. And that is, are you two dating or what? No, that was good. Max broke the ice. Over time, something like I said, Jamie and I have said from day one. I guess we decided that, well, I guess we really kind of have been dating. We just don't really call it dating. We're in a relationship. This is what it is. But no, we are dating. JB has been through this transition, and just being transgender has had no effect on our relationship. The reality is that it could cause issues in the future. There will be hiccups. We know that reality. We've discussed it, and we know that there's a chance that one of us may not be able to be with the other, depending on what happens to us. Hard discussion, but we talked about it, and we agree that we just want the other to be happy. transition, issues are more likely to arise and or be feeling unproportioned. There's difficult subjects to talk about, don't get me wrong, but sometimes just getting off your chest and just ask it. One thing I've learned is that you may feel like you're just in there and you feel like you're gonna be embarrassed if you ask it, if it's with someone you trust and that you can truly be open with, just ask it. 'Cause they might be thinking the same thing. This isn't just in reference to our relationship, it's actually in reference to like any aspect in any person's life. I mean, communication just across the board, at work, at home, at school, anywhere. Communication is so huge. One of the things I've heard repeatedly throughout these meetings is discussion of misgender. There will be times you may be misgendered, does not always mean that it is intentional. Some examples I have seen or could see where you may be unintentionally misgendered is if you have family and friends that have known you for a length of time before you transition, you may have a challenging time readjusting to your new pronoun. Another way is if you are not presenting yourself in a society perceived as a specific gender. I know gender is so broad now and there's not so much of a specific, but in some places there may be more specification. Other one is if you are also making your gender presentation. An example for that is at home, Jamie was female to me. When we're in the cities and we're up here, Jamie's female. So it's difficult. She's awesome, love understanding. She knows if you how to back and forth, and we work through it. And yeah. If you are misgendered, please don't assume that it was intentional. I guess my recommendation would be if you haven't already, when you are misgendered, give a gentle reminder or educate the person or people of what your preferred pronouns are. Obviously, if you can move slowly through that, you know, you can handle it however you deem fit, but just make sure you give that upfront, maybe secondary communication if they haven't gotten it already, just a reminder that, hey, this is what I prefer. And then remember too that sometimes even transgender individuals will unintentionally misgender others as well. It's just kind of a communication. We're all guilty of it. I do support Jamie in her transition, but I do know that other people in her life are not as accepting, but are supportive. And I'm going to kind of break down acceptance and support and kind of give you guys a little breakdown that way. Acceptance is defined as the action of consenting to receive or undertake something offered, or the willingness to tolerate a difficult or unpleasant situation. The way I take this would be someone you come out to may be willing to maintain or continue a relationship or friendship, but may not help you with your transition process. Supportive is defined as providing encouragement or emotional help. Acceptance and being supportive are both types of support. No matter which term is used by someone you come out to, I believe you should be grateful for either one. Either one will help you move forward. As I was putting this presentation together, I asked Jamie what sorts of things I've done as an ally for her. First one was going shopping together. The second one was picking out and critiquing outfits. The next was playing with the hairstyle and nail. Just my comfort and willingness
first Monday of every month. So they canceled on the second because of weather, so they reposted it. What I've learned up there is one of the people that was on the board, gave. Well, she gave a little too much and ended up she passed away. She killed herself. That being said, they're doing a huge fundraising event to get a home in her name up in St. Cloud. So that's really kind of exciting that they want a homeless place for people to go who are gay, lesbian, or transgender, a place to stay if the hospital gets full. So far, they're doing quite well on the fundraising, and they went to company sponsors, which I thought was huge. Target is like right on top of the list. Up in St. Cloud, it's pretty much religious based up there, so it's kind of interesting to hear that some of these people up in St. Cloud, like Super America, you got St. Cloud Floral, Sam's Club, Walmart gave money. So I mean, we're making inroads as far as the donations, or Cowboy Jacks, the White Horse. Those are both bars up there that are, I never knew that they would be that way, especially with the country bars up there, but they're giving a lot of money. So there's a bunch of lists of sponsors that are going to help out with this house, and they're doing the fundraising for it. They think they've got enough now to get a place. They found a resource for it. They're looking into obtaining it, and then running with St. Cloud Hospital to run it and help run it and maintain it. So this is pretty cool news. The other reason, of course, I'm up there is we're looking to maybe expand our group. Hopefully, the next meeting will be on February. I can't remember. I think it's the 8th. I'm not positive of that. But in the first Monday of February, I'm going to plan on being there again with the board. And February 6th, okay. And they're not going to actually have a P-Flag meeting as such. They're going to have another event. But the big thing with that is after their meeting first about organization, then they're going to go out to this other event, and there's a priest up there that's openly gay. And we're going to get a chance to meet him and discuss hopefully making one of their places. It's the Peace United Church of Christ. It's on 8th, so it's right off of the campus of St. Cloud. So that's going to be really neat. And what he says pretty much goes. So I'm hoping to present our group quite well, and hopefully we can get a room one night up there. So that's kind of a big deal for our group. As far as me goes, I've been busy with, got invited at a women's development experience through work. They had a group for all women to experience different aspects of the company with some of the leaders of the company. That was really big. I got invited to another thing from work where it's called SWEDE, and the acronym is Society of Women Engineers. Even though I'm not an engineer, we're starting that group up at work, and they're looking to sponsor the women there to become part of this group. They're affiliated worldwide, and it's a pretty neat program. So my company is really opening up to the women and to transgender, gay, and lesbian groups. So that is really big. So yes, as far as you hear all this negative news, not necessarily on corporate news, they seem like they're moving still forward in our direction. So not everything is negative. I also, in the last few weeks, I got voted in for the Human Rights Committee. I'm going to be leading up the chair for the union, for the district. So that's going to be, I'm going to have to go to school, and there's a couple of them. One is the leadership school, and another one is for human rights. So I'm going to be kind of busy doing a lot of things. I got my hands in a lot of fires right now, but that's okay. I guess that's why I'm here to help. So, like I said, there's a lot going on, and I think this is where we make inroads. This is how we make inroads. So, there's good news. It's not all gloom and doom since Friday. Anyway, I'd like to hand it back to the group.
Yes, if anyone has any questions for me, even questions from you as an ally. And, yeah, it was just, like, well, geez, oh gee,
The unfortunate thing though, it does kinda, I wouldn't say put you in a place where you feel like you have to label yourself, but it kinda sorta does. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unfortunately. It's
There's-
like, okay, so this is what being is where
There's been a lot of
You know.
things that have, I've had to look at within myself and things like that come up, and as they come, go through them.
And I understand as a ally too, you'd be surprised the amount of backlash that comes at you, you know, unsuspectingly too.
Fortunately, I haven't had any yet, but like I said, then again,
Right, and unfortunately, I'm advocating strongly for a minor too, and, you know, I'm very much a mama bear anyway, so
Yeah,
when you
no.
add this to the situation, I become kind of ruthless with it.
I think if anything, Southern Minnesota Tech does show us that, our area is getting to be a lot more open with it. There's still been negative stories that come around, but it seems like we have a lot more options than we probably did in previous years. There's certain more about what we could do. But it just seems so much more open. I mean, it overall, it's common now. Criminality everywhere, even in our little rural area.
I don't remember exactly what the question was, but Amy had asked me one time what was, I think maybe the most difficult thing, you know, with this whole thing is, with me, I felt like, and it wasn't difficult, I just felt like I didn't have a choice. I am now on this bandwagon, and now I'm, like you said, now I'm researching, I'm part of this community, I never thought I'd be there. But, you know, happy to be, proud to be, you know, but at the same point, like I said, the hardest thing for me is constantly feel like I understand who he is. Frustrating.
Yeah. Max, you make me cry. See, one of the things for me right now is that because of Jamie not being out at home, my family doesn't know.
That was actually my
So,
question.
yeah, I have one coworker and my best friend are my two choices of them that I have chosen to decide to and his own personal family.
And it's not easy because unfortunately I've lost friends and family throughout the thing. People I never thought would have an issue or that it would even be an issue, kind of, you know, make it one, and it's just like,
We definitely
really?
tread lightly on who you open up to. I take that back. For me, I do just because I need to make sure that I can trust that person, not out for
Right.
until she's ready. There's enough contact of my family with people in her life that I can see as much as I can say no, I know it is to be a no.
Right. Right.
Putting that on me, and I know that. But it's like you said, you kind of sign up for it.
Right, a lot of times, and sometimes I don't expect it, you know, like, I mean, just last Sunday, my mom, who knows full well, and who even has a life insurance on both the kids, who even had it changed for him during the conversation. I get she's horrible about the pronouns all the time. But blatantly said the old name twice to me on the phone, and after the first time I kinda let it go, and the second time I just said, you know what, Mom? If you're gonna continue with using the incorrect name, I'm trying to overlook the pronoun as it is, I'm gonna have to get off the phone because it's making me that uncomfortable. Because number one, I don't even know who you're talking about. I don't. And number two, you are, anybody's got a problem with it, send it my way. But I love how with the seating assignment, he was Maxwell, and I made it a point to tell him, thank you so much for putting that way, so that it didn't make anything further complicated, you know.
The only other thing I can think of, like the whole situation with your mom being, perhaps just there in that, like she's in that, I don't wanna say era, or that time frame where they just don't do it, and she's really having a hard time accepting it altogether, and that's kind of her way of showing that she doesn't accept it,
Right.
or doesn't support it.
Well,
I
and-
shouldn't say doesn't support it.
Right.
She may accept it, she doesn't support it, and that could be her way of showing that.
Yeah.
And
Well, she struggles with the idea of now not having a granddaughter at all. You know what I mean? And I
Yeah.
get that, but I've told her you have to mourn that loss so that you can embrace the natural life. That's the only way I can explain it to you, because that person doesn't exist and you have to.
have you explained to her like how you're mourning that loss?
Yeah. Yep. I mean, it doesn't help that she hits the spot pretty hard, she's kind of a psycho boozy, but, you know,
I was just about to say, maybe we should also talk about the fact that your mother is not.
kind of fermented a little bit, yeah.
All there.
Yeah.
And wants to do to
See,
herself.
well, I mean.
It's putting it very mildly, let me tell you. It doesn't help our cause, but
No.
it's like, I mean, as recently as last weekend, I'm just like, we shouldn't be here at this point, you know what I mean? And I just can't condone it. I'm gonna call her out on it, and I'm gonna end the conversation if it continues that way, because it's just uncomfortable, and it's unnecessary, you know? So, but I did explain that, I said that's exactly how I kinda went through it, you know, I mean, it is what it is. Sometimes I feel like I've had 3 children, you know, I mean, I don't know how else to describe that, you know, but it is what it is, and I wouldn't trade anything. I mean, doing pretty awesome. I mean, he read some spoken word poetry at a thing on Thursday, and this was a kid who wouldn't order his own food in a restaurant 6 months ago.
Yep.
Stood up in front of a group.
Large group.
And, you know, you guys are all part of that, you know what I mean? He spoke here, and, you know, I mean, getting that comfort level and stuff, I mean, that's huge for him. I mean, I was, and the poem that he read was, bring it down.
It was amazing. I got yours here too.
Oh.
That I did.
I noticed I did.
No, you're not.
I had
But I should.
it.
So, but, I mean, it's stuff like that, and there's not enough people like you, that's why I commend you greatly for never once wavering, you know?
Yeah.
Not a lot of people have that, you know?
A lot of people don't do that. If they're like before, they're just like, yeah, easy. Like it happened at my school actually. The girl came out as male, female, and the girl that he was dating, she moved like yesterday actually. But like she was just like deuces, and like they never talked again. And I was like, that's so mean. Like they were dating for like a solid year, and she just left.
Well, and that's mean and it's harsh, but at that point, I mean, one thing I said is this is a pretty good weeding out process. If someone can that easily walk away from you without trying to understand or wanting to be there, I mean, cut your loss. I mean, it's not that it doesn't hurt, but what can you do? I mean, you can't force somebody to be tolerant and to be patient and to be understanding, and, you know, on one hand it's a blessing, and on the other hand it hurts like hell, so what do you do? You know? Like I said, I've dealt with it with friends and family too before. I'm just like, yeah, you can have a problem with it all day long, but this is my son, and I'm gonna keep doing what I do, and I'm not gonna call him something different to make you comfortable. You know, I mean, it is what it is. So,
Have you talked about what would happen if the food came out? Just thought with a small town and people and gossip, you never know who might slip, or you might even slip around your mom one time and you wouldn't even know it until your mom goes,
Yeah, I never talked to my mother. Oh my God, you have no idea how hard that is.
you know.
I probably told before I'm an only child, and my parents always had. And I told them everything the day I was born. So, definitely been a challenge. Not gonna say I haven't come really close to slipping up. But we haven't, I mean, at this point it's kind of a, if it comes out, it comes out. No work
they're gonna feel in a way betrayed, and then at the same time, you know, they're gonna go, well, what about the future grandson, girl, you know,
Oh, yeah,
daughter,
I'm not
you know.
gonna get into
You
that.
know, you know what I'm saying, but that's where parents go.
Well, I mean, I wanna say this way, but I think they've already marked off with a lot of time on the grandkids. No, I've kind of told them that, I mean, would I like children? Yeah. People need to figure out how to take care of myself before I start their life. They understand that. Or I should say need to be nephews. I have cousins and a lot of so.
Well, Amy's the next one is 30th, so if anybody needs cousins, this one is just itching for the
I
opportunity.
officially put in the application.
Yeah, like, I'm not even kidding, she's insane, like, she's,
Wow.
for the litter is cool, you know? More importantly, forget the kids, I mean, have grandcats or whoever.
Well, see, and I had a hamster at one time. My mom loved it. She loves my betta fish, so she's fine with that.
Is that all sales, is
Yeah.
putting your kids looking for a good home, I'm more concerned about when is the wait. I would love to see that.
You and like everyone else we talk to.
I've never asked
No
that
pressure.
question.
No
Oh,
pressure.
no,
I
the
am never
pressure is
asked.
on.
Oh, well, technically, we have been married, what, 4 times? 4 times.
Really?
Yeah,
What?
people have been convinced that we're married.
Oh,
Time
really?
and time again.
I'm like, wow, that's a lot,
That's a lot of.
Yeah,
Well,
we,
very
we,
nice,
we
really.
figured they must have been really good at everything about him. So we must have had a really good
They
time.
informed us about
Oh,
the
oh,
wedding.
They
perfect.
informed us we were dating. So like I said, it's always been, we've never really discussed it. We just kind of went with it. We've done so much of our friendship, our relationship, our now dating relationship on our terms. It's been on what works for us.
And that's
Not,
the best
not,
way to do
yeah,
it.
it's not how society feels like we should be dating or whatever. I mean, it's like, yes, we were friends, but we held hands all the time. That's just me and myself needing affection and, you know, just, I'm a person like that. I just need that. Yeah. And, I mean, it was just something for me, but yet it helped Jamie too, because Jamie was a really like closed off person, like, would just hug, nothing, and it was just like, it drove me nuts, and I'm like, okay, if you're gonna be hanging out with me, I'm gonna turn you into some kind of affectionate person, and even if it's just kind of like, nothing in your hand, I'm gonna do it, and if it's with your arm, I'm gonna do it. And now, this is like, all the time, usually Tuesday.
No pressure, but I think it'd be a hell of a wait, so, yeah, just saying. I think it'd be a lot of fun.
I was
No
gonna
pressure,
say, it
no
would probably be
pressure.
expectant in your family.
Yeah.
The weddings are unbelievable.
Yeah.
Cause I did get to experience one this fall. They're
That's the other big thing, I'm glad you mentioned that, like I said, with Jamie not being out at home, and my family not knowing, this year Jamie has turned to Christmas, a wedding, and a wedding shower with me. Cause I'm from Atlanta. The reason behind that is, I want my family to get to know Jamie, like I did. So then, when she does come out at home, I want them to remember the Jamie that they met. Not the male Jamie, the Jamie that they met.
Do you think it would make it more difficult though?
I'm not sure.
So that's what I wonder is, oh, we got to know this person, but I mean, and it's hard to say because I mean.
Like I said, for me, I'm looking at, to me, Jamie's still the same person.
Exactly.
And I'm hoping
It's
that's
not
what
like
my
that for
family
everyone
will
else.
do.
Right.
But how do I know that? I mean,
Right.
I've never dealt with this before. I'm going off of what I feel like is gonna work. Will it blow up in my face at night? I don't know. It's just kind of what we needed to do, what I needed. I mean, I've been trying to get to really kind of family since 7 months. Oh my gosh. I
You don't
can
care
tell you.
how she comes, just, as long as she's
Exactly.
going, yeah.
And I actually, one of the reasons I did that too was because exactly what you're saying. I didn't want them to have to deal with this change.
Right.
You know, Amanda and I talked about it a lot, and we kind of thought we'd take a chance at it, but we thought we're gonna try it without the prejudgment.
Mm-hmm.
You know, see how that goes, rather than time before I come out to them. So I don't know, we'll see. I mean, as you said,
Yeah, it's not
we're
easy.
just, that's
says something, then half the world believes that that's true when it's actually not. You know, that's the other end of it, you know.
I mean, like I said, like, are we doing it right or wrong? I don't know. There is no.
There is no right or wrong.
It's like
Whatever works for you guys,
exactly,
yeah.
that's what we've always said. And do you feel like there's handful of people, especially at home, that are just kind of jealous of our relationship? Now, like I said, it's more to that relationship at home, but it's what you see here, though. It's still the
Right.
same stuff. So.
Well, and like, what I feel is that when it comes, especially when it comes to your parents, if they know that Jamie is someone that you care about, hopefully, they won't throw one away the other. Jamie's good to you, you're good to Jamie. Hopefully
That
that's all
should
that matters.
that should be all it ever should be. You know what I mean? But it's
Exactly.
not.
It's
you
not,
know.
but
Like I told Max, I
hopefully.
don't care who you date, as long as they love you and are respectful to you.
Yep.
I mean, I don't care if
Otherwise we're
who it
putting
is.
chicks in the backyard instead.
Yes, I said it wouldn't, I don't care how it looks to anybody else, I don't care who it is, I don't, male or female, doesn't matter, but if they treat you like crap, I have a problem with it, and, I would rather you just be in a healthy, happy relationship.
I've been in enough relationships that I had a lot of trust issues. And did that all come to light when Jamie started to talk to me? There was, but it wasn't fun. Moving forward, because it wasn't me. Intentional lie to hurt me.
I know what you said about the communication though, I mean, you guys have that, you guys care a lot about each other, you guys have talked so much about what can and will come up. And so as it, goes, I mean, you guys seem like such a unified front that, I mean.
It's not me. Thank you. We know.
I would say though that, just that there's something going on both teams very up with some. But actually, ever since I came on tour, that is really where our relationship really took off. Because it finally allowed me to be open and just let everything.
Fill it all out.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, our relationship really took off.
Does anybody else have any questions or feedback for anyone like that?
I just like that first some feedback what you said is there were people who were kind of upset that I didn't tell them about what I was going through earlier, and some of it was because I didn't know exactly where it was going to go,
Yeah.
and so I thought like, well, I don't get everyone upset in one direction if something were to change, and some of it's figuring out what you're doing before you let that out, and some of it's trying to figure out how you're going to tell people. So there's always that incubation stage in which you don't always want to tell, well, you hardly want to tell anyone anything.
Well, like, James come out to just like a few immediate family members and
Mhm.
stuff, and everybody was the last. So,
Or
yeah,
such
I mean, and there's no right or wrong way on how to come out with something. It's gonna be what's gonna work for you.
And the question part is that because when before I was out to everyone, being out to some people and not to others, I found to actually be very psychologically difficult, far more than I thought it would be. And it's one of the reasons I transitioned as quickly as I could, because the trouble that it was just difficult to keep things straight, especially if you're switching back and forth. And some of you probably remember the story where I went to a restaurant and asked me what the name of the order should be, and I forgot who I went out as. And so that was just one of those signs like okay, I've got to make this change quickly. So I'm thinking like, does that have an effect on you?
It
And
does.
and how
It
and how difficult is
definitely-
it?
It's a challenge. A lot of times, because I've been around here, I get in the habit of referring to English and her. At home, it's strictly he, him. If I try to talk about, I guess the biggest thing is like if I try to talk about something going on this weekend, I'm making up a whole different story about it altogether for one thing. And then after, even though I know it's all, she know it after the first
What do you worry about?
Just more verbal abuse than anything. You know, she's got a lot of friends at home, a lot of teammates, things like that, that I don't know how they're gonna react. That's kind of my biggest concern is just the more people, more along the lines of the people that we always know, like trophy winners. That's where I can see a lot of negativity happening. Overall, I haven't put a lot of thought to the rest of the stuff in town, cause it just depends, I don't know how she's planning to present herself every day there, I don't know, so, until that happens, again, like I said, I can't sit and anticipate that this is gonna happen, and like when she was full-time, you know, it's just like to be on guard all the time, and I can't think about that, cause I have enough of my own anxieties, and I worry about her, and I worry about me enough as it is. I don't need to put the added layers on myself. They're there, don't get me wrong, but I can't dwell on it. I have to just let things happen and go as they go and happen and work through things as they come up. Control what I can and work through what I can't control.
Sounds so healthy.
That is a hard hump. I was kinda like, you know, I still worry about him, you know what I mean? But at the same point, it was so good, like, you know, like how Liz described that psychological, I mean, it's draining. I couldn't even imagine you're trying to blossom and become this person that you know you are, and yet you kind of feel you can't. I mean, I knew Max before a lot of other people did too, so like even talking to my mom or his dad, I mean, I had to constantly, okay, which way do I have to go with it? I have to, and I started to get to the point where it made me almost wince and uncomfortable when I had to refer to him as something other than who he was, you know, where I'm like, you know, it's just this is awkward and strange to me now, and it's, you know, not helping me get the pronoun down and everything like I'm trying to do, and
What are you even talking about?
You came out to us in
like my
May.
mom didn't know yet, and your dad didn't know till that
Remember-
September.
No. I
And-
felt bad when we went school shopping.
Yeah, in
But that was
September.
the 3 months.
That was not.
Yes. You told us
It
in
was
May.
almost 5 months actually.
Yeah, was it? I thought it was in May.
Wired.
Anyways, so I get that too, you're trying to correct the situation, and then sometimes you can't, so I even got busted a couple times, kinda
Were you talking
saying
about?
he and, yeah, and then I was like,
One of the most difficult things like that I've recently gone through was I was up at the shop one night with Jeannie and his mom was there and she had come back from a meeting in the city and presenting the email and there he was and I'm like, I don't know what to look for just a second. It was just 'cause that's how I had seen her, and so it was just, and it just threw me off, 'cause I actually kind of paused and I was like, what was she talking about? I mentioned it to Jamie. What'd she do? I don't know, she kind of ignored me.
that happened to me a couple times too, where I'm just like, I was like, oh great, they didn't bring it up, so we're just gonna skirt right past
Well, yeah,
that,
and I
keep
mean,
going, you know?
and it's not something that I even will necessarily always try to correct myself with. If I say it, I've said it. I know that Jamie understands I'm gonna mess it up every now and then. It's gonna happen. It's just with the back and forth, it's almost inevitable. Yeah, same thing. Kind of like, and then same thing like in certain settings, like at the shop. 99% of the time, Jamie's presenting this email there, so I can see why your mom would refer you to. But, 'cause she doesn't always catch that 100% of the time. But yet, I get upset about it because it's just kind of, at this point, what it's gonna be. And there's nothing malicious behind it. It's just absolutely.
So I have a question. At the beginning we talked about pronouns and understanding. Is there anything else that us as council
say this, it's, you know, I'm, you know, born male, but I have, you know, whatever, that might help them clarify, because like I said, for me, when I heard the term transgender, like I said, I jumped to cross-dresser. Cause I didn't know what was anything else to it, brands and stuff, like, that's where your mind, I mean, for me, that's where my mind
Especially with no
went.
experience.
Exactly, and Jamie, actually finding out now also, Jamie thought I understood, Jamie was surprised to find out that I didn't know.
Well, it's hard for us, you know, when I grew up, knowing that I was transgender and I heard terms like gay, and I thought, you know, stuff on TV, like, nope. You know, and then even as I got older, and I still didn't know about transgender, but as I saw things about like cross-dressers and transvestites, I'm like, still no. Like,
Yes.
I knew that those
Yep.
things weren't me,
Yep.
because they weren't. But
Yep.
someone who is not in that community,
Yes, it's just gender.
how are they supposed to like just figure it out? Obviously,
Okay.
we're gonna figure it out because we know who we are.
Yeah, and you've been focusing on this and
Researching it
into
and
this
looking at
yourself
it.
already, so yeah, so I'd
Yeah.
say, you know, like I said, you know, try to educate them when you come out to them, but don't flood them with like a ton of information, you know, just
There's
say,
no
you know,
reason-
this is
yeah.
this and that, and I mean, if anything, books are kind of a little extreme, but, I mean, I would suggest looking into this book and see if there's anything in here that would help someone coming out, maybe if there's like an image in here that you could show them. I know there was one like scale it showed and it had, like, if you're, you know, had male and female, and it's like, if you like to bake, you should be at this end of the spectrum, if you like to do this, you're at this end of the spectrum, so it's
I
showing
love
like.
baking. What end of the spectrum is that?
That's Berlin. But yet it
Rise
doesn't
and
mean,
shine.
but
Why
it
is
doesn't mean
it
that's